Why are university students still adamant to continue with the fees must fall protests? Are university councils prepared to contribute to the democratization of higher learning institutions? And what can be made of today's meeting between Nzimande and university student leaders? Is it possible that management and students at affected institutions can reach an amicable solution? What time is it? It's question time. Welcome to Question Time. My name is Mpho Tsedu. In one of his articles, researcher at the Mapungubwe Institute David Maimela says, and I quote, "Increasingly, almost all universities have adopted the corporate language and culture of client service provider relations. Students are now clients, and in this context, those who have money have easy access. Those without money find it hard to gain access," close quote. In the wake of the resurgence of the fees must fall protests, Higher Education and Training Minister Dr. Nzimande has called a meeting with all student representative council leaders and vice chancellors from various universities today. This as a concerted effort to find common ground with students at affected higher learning institutions. A reminder that we are live, and therefore you can call us and air your views on the following numbers: 089-110-4210, our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. My guest today, David Maimela, who is a researcher at the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection, and Graham Block, he's an education analyst. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. David, perhaps let's start with the quote that I just referred to there, and perhaps contextualize it to the, I don't know whether it's still a crisis, but the environment that is prevailing within higher education institutions and particularly universities.
Well, I mean, to the extent that you have a situation where, you know, students with academic talent and merit achievements, having achieved bachelor passes, distinctions and so on, and you find them not having access to these institutions, that in itself speaks to the question of, if you do not have money, no matter how talented you are, you cannot have access to university education. And that continues to characterize some of the key challenges of access to education in South Africa. And others have argued that to the extent that you have the, the fees being at the level where they are, public universities cannot be strictly referred to as public universities. Rather, actually, in other contexts, like Brazil, they are referred to as private universities. That public universities, actually, in essence, are those where people, generally have access without having to pay, or actually pay very little or close to nothing. So it is in that context that I speak of corporate culture, and there are many other elements that speak to it. It includes the language, the way in which you treat students, the things that you charge fees for, such as academic transcripts. You have to pay for supplementary exams and all these other things that are there. So it means that money talks, and if you don't have, you cannot have access.
Are you not espousing a socialist view, which says perhaps that service, or I don't know if it's a privilege or a right, maybe, should actually be made available to all regardless of affordability?
No, I think free education and easier access to education is actually to be found in all economic systems, in capitalist societies, in socialist societies. And I think here it's all about the principle. The principle is that every academically deserving student should have an equal chance and an equal opportunity to actually access education it should not matter that you do not have the money, because admission to any academic institution is on the basis of academic merit, achievement, and progress. So if you have that, then you can be admitted. The issue of money, the state and other stakeholders in society can negotiate that and provide funding for it.
Is South Africa rewarding excellence?
I don't think so. And I think that whether you're poor or rich does make a difference. So I'm prepared to agree up to a point with David. And I think somebody has got to pay. Whether it's poor students or rich students, somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to, and the youth have said they want free education. But is it going to come off transport, or where's it going to come from at university level? So I don't think that poor students, I mean poor students even at school level get poor schools.
Yes. Now, what would you then say is the cause for this uproar, really, that has engulfed higher education?
I support free fees must fall campaign, and I think that poor students should get access, just like rich students do.
How do you determine whether some students are poor and who is rich?
Well, that's a complication, and you need to ask some questions, as I've asked some already. I mean, and I think that the minority mustn't determine the game also. So I think you need a means test.
Do you think government can afford?
I think government can afford free education.
Why do you say so? They're saying it's very expensive.
It's very expensive. And I mean, they give more than 260 million to basic education.
Yes.
So they need to give the same to tertiary education, I think. And I think that Blade's recent stuff is useful, but not everything. It helps the 0%, but it's not free education.
Yes. David, do you think the students are going to buy into this, freezing the increment and not necessarily scrapping the fees?
Well, I think the students have to count their victories and the gains they've made. I think since October last year, they have scored major victories, some of them historic and some of them for the first time. I think the fact that you have had no increase of fees this year is quite a major victory across the board. The fact that you have had NSFAS and the Department of Higher Education committing to paying for outstanding, or what is referred to as a historic debt, is quite a victory. The fact that you have the president having announced a commission that will look into the long-term issues of funding and the entire set of issues of higher education transformation, I think for me that is quite important. Of course, the commission is going to build on the work that has been done by the committee that was led by Professor Derek Swartz at the Nelson Mandela University, which apparently I've not gotten my hands on the report. Apparently, it's a bit difficult to get hold of it. That the report apparently indicates that it is actually feasible to have free education in South Africa anytime soon.
Are there any models that have been proposed to fund higher education?
I haven't heard any models that are going to fund this, except, and the students need to come up with models. That's my take, is the students should come up with models of funding free education.
Are you not having too much confidence on the students?
I don't think so. I think that David is right. They have won very many victories and they are confident. And I would back them. I would say that they need to understand that they have the power.
Okay. One of the other things that have emerged during this Fees Must Fall campaigns and all that has been the question of transformation of these universities. And I mean, I remember during our days at university, we were talking transformation more than 20 years ago, and it's still being debated even today.
I think the anti-colonial stuff is still being debated, and but the pressure is on. And I think that young people need to hold the government's feet to the fire, and government needs to come up with more transformation and fees. David,
you've also written about transformation, and actually you have even come up with proposals on how to deal with the challenges of transformation then.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole range of other things. What is clear to all of us is that the higher education sector, like almost the rest of society, the patience of the people is running very thin on the lack of transformation on a range of sectors and a range of issues, and higher education is one of them. So after 22 years, you've got to take stock of whether, what kind of qualitative advances have you made to actually change the academy, change institutional cultures, curriculum content, and other issues such as language policy and so on. You've got to take stock of that and say, have we really moved qualitatively to make progress? And the answer, shamefully, is no, we haven't.
Hold it there. We'll expand that after the break. We're taking a quick break. When we return, we'll be taking your calls 089-110-4210. What are your thoughts? What are your questions, comments? We'll be taking those calls 089-110-4210. This is Question Time.
Mancosa, Southern Africa's leading distance learning institution, accredited, affordable and accessible management education programs, higher certificates, diplomas, undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. Register at Mancosa and be part of Southern Africa's leading private business school. Visit our website mancosa.co.za. Mancosa, management education reimagined.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guest, David Maimela, excuse me. He's a researcher at Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection and Graham Block, education analyst. We've got Itumeleng. Itumeleng, you're calling us from Pretoria.
How are you, sir?
I'm well. Thanks for the question, for the call, rather.
No, thank you very much.
Yes.
They say if you tell a lie every day, you end up thinking it's the truth yourself, the person telling the lie. Or if you hear a lie every day, you end up thinking it's the truth. It is possible to have free education. Basic economics, the economics that I did at school. Economics is about the resources of a country being shared amongst the residents of that country to benefit their, to improve their living standards. Whether it's gold, whether it's farming, any resource of that country, people are chosen to make sure that those resources of that country are shared amongst the people of the country. But what is happening right now, I think things are done deliberately to create two worlds, the haves and the have-nots. It is possible to have a free education, but it depends on the people who are in charge, whether they want to make it possible. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Itumeleng. It is possible, but it depends on the people who are in charge.
I must confess that I'm partly in charge. I'm on the SRC. I'm on the council, not the SRC.
Okay.
The council at UCT.
Okay. Now, what is your role then?
I say that we must listen to the students and hear what they have to say, and the SRC especially.
And are you getting support from your colleagues?
I think so. Some support. Not enough, but some.
Has your council transformed?
I don't think so. I think there's a lot to go.
What should happen for it to be considered a transformed council?
Well, I think it needs to be more female, and I think it needs to be more black.
Oh, but who's voting for you then?
The ex-white students, the radical white students who come from the past.
So, if radical white students are voting for liberals like yourself, is it too hard to transform from within?
I think that it's very hard to transform without getting some student holding feet to the fire. And they need to hold both government and the university's feet to the fire.
Okay. Dougie, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too, my friend.
Yes.
You're looking good.
Thank you, Dougie.
Listen, that clever man, the white one. He's a very clever man. I can hear him.
Okay.
As soon as you start giving people free education, it's like giving them things that they don't have to strive for to make a success of their lives. As soon as you give something to anybody for nothing, they don't have to work for it. That is wrong. The other thing is the question, the word transformation.
Yes.
What do you want to transform? How? What that word, transformation.
Okay.
What is the meaning or explanation of transformation? You don't just want to have transformation for the sake of transformation. You want to have transformation for the sake of, yes, it's going to better something. But if it's not, everything always stays the same. Doesn't matter through the centuries.
Okay. Dougie, thank you very much.
Okay.
Let me allow you to just respond to Dougie there quickly.
I think that, as I said in my day, the universities need to listen more to the students.
Okay. David, where is the problem? Why is transformation not happening? Don't you think that if people like yourself were serving in councils, then it would be easier to communicate with students and perhaps indeed achieve some of the gains that they are fighting for?
Well, I think that the strategy of gradualism has actually failed us, that we can achieve change through gradual means. And I think that, as I said earlier on, the level of impatience on the side of students, academics, and other sectors of society is actually quite self-evident of the fact that we cannot keep on postponing the task to transform. I mean, the responsibility lies with all constituencies, the students, the academic, university management, as well as government. And I think that the most important two constituencies is actually the workers and students, because without that mass power and that mass mobilization, you may not have the necessary motivation and space to actually move with speed to achieve certain things. So government has also got to be decisive. Somebody asks, but what do you mean by transformation? I mean, transformation, it's quite clear. You state very clearly what kind of society you want to build, and then you take particular steps to achieve that kind of society. And that kind of society has been spelled out in the constitution of this country. First of all, it's an inclusive society. And when you look at our universities, half of them, or even more than half of them, they are not those kinds of inclusive entities that you want to have.
Eric Emonti.
Yes, good afternoon, sir, with your guest.
Yes, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Sir, one thing that I want to just support the fees must fall.
Okay.
I just want to go straight to the government does have money for that. If you consider there are a lot of money that has been in the corruption era of the South Africa, in the people who are working in the government, South Africa does have money. Therefore, the higher education, the tertiary education, can also succeed without even having fees there. Why I'm saying so is that the government of the ANC, because before they take over from 1994,
Yes.
they were singing the song, one song with us. We wanted education in South Africa. Now it's them now that are in the government for 22 years now.
Yes.
Therefore, they just ignored this issue now. From 22 years, they have to plan this thing for long ago. Now it's a problem of the South Africa now because we don't have money. Now everybody is not employed, but our kids are growing, and therefore they don't even have money to go and register in the university. So this is, the government does have money.
Okay.
If you consider the South Africa supporting the outside countries in everything that we also now checking now, even the electricity from the ESCOM and other stuff from the to Mozambique and the Namibians, which means that South Africa does have money. They can succeed in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. Okay, before we get Marcus' comments on that, let's look at what our Twitter handles is saying. Tabiso Taiza says it should be a basic legislation that every established company should sponsor students. Okay. And, okay, Tabiso, again, we as academics should come up with models or proposals on how free education can be funded. Right. And I'm an African, says online registration is still exclusive of the majority. Universities themselves don't relay information. Could this be another trick, if one may use the word, to to exclude people, to say you must use online facilities and all that?
I think there's a majority who want to register, and we should listen to them as well. So I think that it's not a trick. And I think maybe the commission, maybe 8 months is too long, but maybe we don't need to be too immediatist. Okay.
Khotso, you are in the Free State. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Mpo. How are you?
I'm well, Ndadi.
I'm okay. First thing, I want to say that as COPE, we support the fees must fall.
Okay.
And with historic debt for students, it must also cover those students who have been self-funding themselves. And we reject the funding commission of President Zuma. You know why? It's because if he didn't have the biggest cabinet in the world, we could have had money to pay for student fee-free education in South Africa.
Okay.
So as COPE, when we want to state it categorically clear, we reject that commission. We reject everything that doesn't come with free fee education.
Okay.
Other speakers have spoken about the corruption and everything. We are saying, let him cut the bloated cabinet, let him pay the Nkandla money and give us the money for free education.
Thank you very much, Khotso, there in Free State. David, let's round up quickly.
I think it's actually short-sighted to say you will get the money from reprioritizing funding within the public service. I think that that's very short-term and it's quite conservative. I think that there are different sources within society, because government is one source, the state is one source, but the private sector is quite a big, consumer of throughput rates and graduates that come from the system. So the private sector also has got a stake, and I think that how short-term it is that you just move around money within the public sector is that there will be another pressure point, maybe on water or local government, as we already have. Then you'd want to shift money again, throw it to the other side, and then you have got a gap opening on the other side. Okay. So the long-term and most sustainable solution is to basically grow the economy, make sure that we've got growth and development in the economy, so that we increase the revenue base of the state to be able to fund public health and education adequately, and that should be the long term.
Your closing thoughts, perhaps your message to students?
I think that corporates have something to gain and they should put some money in, but I don't think that they're going to fund everything. So I think that my message to students is make sure that you get what you want.
Fight. Okay. Thank you very much for the time, gentlemen. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.